Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Well, first, we've taken another significant step in our coronavirus recovery with a suite of restrictions to be eased on Friday. 250 people will be allowed at indoor gatherings, while 500 can attend outdoor events. And as fears grow of a second wave in Victoria, Tasmania has stepped forward to offer help.
Winning the numbers game.
It's been 39 days without an active case.
As of midday Friday, 250 people will be allowed at indoor gatherings, 500 at outdoor events. Casinos, food courts, even garage sales will be back, while in changes for physical distancing.
Rather than the 1 person per 4 square metre rule, a 1 person per 2 square metre rule.
Community sport will kick off. The question of how many will fill stadiums still needs to be discussed at National Cabinet, although the Premier has been on the phone to the AFL.
I spoke with Gil McLachlan this morning. What we've agreed is that we'll have a further discussion next week.
On the phone also to Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews, who's asked for Tasmania's help in processing tests. Our health system stands ready to assist, but Peter Gutwin isn't talking to everyone.
I made the point the other day that I'd stop speaking to you because I couldn't trust you, and you've just demonstrated again.
Rebecca White says she was happy to work with Peter Gutwin during the crisis.
But the challenge came for him when I started to advocate on behalf of industries and stakeholders and ask questions that he found challenging to answer.
The Greens aren't convinced.
Labor just couldn't play it straight. Labor couldn't contain their most base political instincts, even in an emergency.
Something everyone can agree on. An independent review into the Northwest outbreak will begin next month. Barrister Greg Malik will take charge of the review. It's expected to be completed by October. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
A number of major projects around Tasmania have been stalled as developments face the long-term impacts of shutdowns. Large-scale builds, including a Mount Wellington cable car and Mona Hotel, not immune, forced to rethink their timelines.
The campaign's been revealed and the paperwork lodged, but a long-awaited Mount Wellington cable car is facing a setback of a different kind, a global pandemic.
Clearly there's been travel restrictions, both with interstate and even local experts have been impacted. But as we're starting to see some restrictions ease now, we hope that these final matters can be resolved very quickly.
Coronavirus restrictions holding back the company from answering a long list of questions from Council about its latest development application, now hoping to finally submit those next week.
Delays are unfortunate, but the great thing is that the timing of this project, that it'll come into fruition when we really need new tourism activities in Tasmania.
Other major developments also impacted, work slowing on plans for a 5-star Kangaroo Bay hotel and hospitality school. And at Federal Group, it's been training up staff to reopen on Friday, but upgrades to its businesses, a new development at Cradle Mountain and a luxury hotel on the Tasman Peninsula all paused.
Projects such as Port Arthur will obviously be having to sit and wait until we know how the post-COVID tourism environment looks.
Mona also not immune. Its new hotel put on hold, and owner David Walsh revealing today the iconic museum won't be open until October, one of thousands of businesses now fighting to recover.
COVID-19 forces every business to focus on survival initially, then it's about planning for what a post-COVID world will look like, and now it's about the recovery phase.
Ready to bounce back after a long and unprecedented start to 2020. Michelle WISBEY, 7 Tasmania News.
Police have charged a 27-year-old Lutana man with arson over a fire that broke out at a Risdon Road unit complex late yesterday. A neighbouring unit had also been targeted in 2 suspected arson attacks the day before. Those are still under investigation. Police are calling for anyone who witnessed suspicious behaviour in the area to contact Crime Stoppers. A 9-year-old boy missing in cold and wet conditions has been found alive and well after a 6-hour search. The boy was reported missing from his 7 Mile Beach home around 6 p.m. yesterday, sparking the large-scale search. Police initially held grave concerns for his safety, but the good news came around midnight. The boy found by police on the family's rural property.
His condition was cold. He was obviously happy to be home. He had some scratches. He was only wearing light clothing at the time of his disappearance. So being quite cold and wet last night, he was obviously affected by the weather.
Police have thanked the 7 Mile Beach community for their help finding the boy. Tasmanian Governor Kate Warner will remain in the job for an extra 6 months due to the COVID-19 crisis. The Queen has approved the extension requested by Premier Peter Gutwein. Her Excellency was due to step down from the role in December but will continue on until June. The decision has been welcomed by both Labor and the Greens. The latest figures show Tasmania's real estate market is coming out of the pandemic relatively unscathed. Real Estate Institute figures released for May show house sales have jumped by almost 21% in Hobart and more than 5% in Launceston. On the flip side, sales in the northwest plummeted 17%, likely due to a shortage of stock. But the value of properties in the region experienced the highest increase of 11%, while values across the entire state all rose. First home buyers accounted for 21% of sales. Damage from this week's storm event is expected to top $1 million. RACT Insurance says it's received around 100 claims, mostly from the Clarence, Glenorchy and Hobart areas. The claims including typical incidents like water damage inside homes, roofs ripped off in the wind and trees coming down. Cut off from the rest of the world, even Tasmania for a period, it hasn't been smooth sailing for Bass Strait Islands. To add to the tumultuous times, King Island's sole freight vessel is out of action.
A key link connecting King Island to Tasmania and the mainland down.
Last Friday, the John Digan sustained a damage to a stern tube seal, which is essentially part of a seal that joins the propeller shaft to the gearbox.
But TASPORTS says services haven't been jeopardised.
Put in place some appropriate measures with some other providers in Eastern Line and also Furno Freight.
The John Digan started operating in mid-2018. This is the vessel's first major hiccup.
That's the nature of shipping, is that things break and things get worn out. We're taking the opportunity to bring forward a really important planned survey of the vessel, which was planned for later in the year, which minimises any further disruption to our customers on the island.
The ship's on its way to Sydney for repairs, with a return to Tasmania expected in around 2 weeks' time. One of the island's supermarkets is concerned about backlogs worsening.
We rely on those shipments to keep our store with products for the customer, and when with the shortage already and supplies still not coming in consistently, we certainly rely on that.
Seas may be rocky, but the skies are clearing. Sharp Airlines is increasing travel to Flinders Island while continuing freight flights to both islands.
As of Monday of next week, there will be 2 services from Launceston to Flinders and return. As those borders have come down, we have transitioned our schedule.
It's been a testing time for the regional airline.
To say to mainland Tasmanians, travel overseas, but stay at home. Spend locally, stay locally, but you can still go overseas to the Bass Strait Islands. And we are seeing an increase in visitations to the islands.
Positive signs in cloudy times. LETITIA Wallace, 7 Tasmania News.
It's a rare sight, but Mount Wellington's elusive disappearing tarn has returned. For those walkers lucky enough to visit, this is their view, amazingly clear blue water. The natural phenomenon appears only after several days of heavy rain or snowmelt, but you'll be quick to spot it as the pool usually empties after a few days. Today marks 30 years since Tasmanian football arguably achieved its greatest triumph, taking down the Big V in front of 18,000 screaming fans. The 1990 State of Origin side was determined to restore pride in the Map Guernsey after suffering a string of setbacks leading up to the clash. Tonight, we hear from the players who, on that day, made Tassie football famous.
The first time since 1960 that Tasmania will have beaten the Victorian combination.
And this place is going to go mad when we hear the final siren.
And they thoroughly deserve the win here today.
Langford sensing the danger, drifting across, takes the mark, there's the siren.
30 years ago today, Tasmania had arguably its most famous football victory. The theatre played out across 2 hours on North Hobart Oval, but the backstory was 2 years in the making.
I suppose Tasmania was copping a bit of a battering at the time about where we start, on the rung of as a football state.
2 years earlier, Tasmania had been unceremoniously snubbed from the main State of Origin carnival, relegated to an untelevised second division.
We'd had a series of games where we'd been pretty disappointing and comprehensively beaten, and we're starting to get sick of losing, to be quite honest.
What great play by Clay, and he's found Atkins.
The year before, we were starting to become competitive, and there was just a feeling that with the side that we'd assembled and the maturity of the players, that we were starting to get close.
Today, Foster's State of Origin football gives the Apple Isle a chance to make a point or two. Led by talented running players, Graham Wright, Darren Pritchard, Trent Nichols and Simon Atkins.
The races there are quite unique. You had to go down a tunnel underneath the ground and then come back up. And when you came up, to see North Hobart absolutely chockers, and I think it was one of the bigger crowds. I think seeing that many people there, we just wanted to do the state proud.
We'll pause for the national anthem.
I can't remember if we won the toss or lost the toss, but either way, it was the scoring end.
And it will be taken by Paul Hudson. He goes in short, uses the ball superbly. Alexander kicks, and kicks truly.
We sealed that game with our stamp very early that we were there to play.
Barwick, and I tell you what, he could just about kick this. It'll only be about 55 metres out, Pete, so not without a chance, Doug Barwick. He'll certainly be trying. Oh, what a roost! Look at the kick! A magnificent kick!
Damien Monkhurst, he was very, very vocal in the week leading up. It was his poor kick that actually went out of bounds that led to the pass to me, and Monkey was still standing around, he was gobbing off. So I really wanted to stick it up him. I pinned the ears back, it come off pretty well, and I was able to go to Monkey and just explain how significant his contribution was.
After leading by 4 goals at quarter time, Tasmania trailed by a point at the main break. That soon changed.
I've never seen a Tasmanian team put a Victorian side to the sword as much as what we did.
Kicks up the full forward, fell, great mark. Barwick just back onto the ground and mark, strong stuff.
Our togetherness was a lot better than what Victoria's was, and you see Jose kick a goal and it's like it's expected.
In the final term, the floodgates opened and a famous victory was born.
Hudson in the pack there, Barwick's there, Hudson wins out. Snapshot. Oh, don't tell me he's kicked that. Oh, what a goal!
That's the memory that we're all looking at each other going, we're going to win this, And there was a little bit of time to have a bit of enjoyment.
The danger, drifting across, takes the mark, there's the siren.
To have played a part in that with kicking a couple late as well, and was just one of the best feelings of all time.
There's only 2 choices at half-time, and that's the choices I gave them. In front of 20,000 people, to surrender, virtually, and get embarrassed, which they would have done, or to go out in the first 10 minutes and stand up against them, whatever they were going to, because I honestly believe the Victorians thought they were going to come out for the first 10 minutes, kick 4 or 5, and it was all home. But the first 10 minutes where no one scored was the most important facet of the game.
Sure, it was always just sort of keeping it level, thinking, there's a job here to do, and if we do it properly, there could be something exciting.
From that point on, there would be only a handful of times Tasmania would again pull on its famous map Guernsey. And by the end of the decade, State of Origin football as we knew it was gone. The 1990 clash lives on as inspiration for the annual Relive the Rivalry charity match, and the game's legacy remains stronger than ever.
I want to get paid in representing the state, and it was never discussed back then. I know things are more professional now, and it's disappointing that State of Origin isn't played. And I'm just so lucky and proud that I was able to do that.
Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
3 Tasmanian Catholic schools will be extended to offer Year 11 and 12. It's been confirmed St Aloysius, MacKillop and St Virgil's colleges will all open to senior students in 2023. The project has been 3 years in the making, but the schools now hope the transition will help students and parents plan for the future.
Being able to stay at the college that you've currently enrolled in, being able to be with your cohort of friends, being able to experience the excitement and difference of Year 11 and 12 education. They're all very positive benefits.
The plan is expected to inject $53 million into the economy through capital works projects on the campuses.
Good evening, Burnie, Devonport and Strawn our top today with 17 degrees. Hobart a cool 12 and Launceston 16. Lowhead, Smithton and all the islands 16 degrees. St Helens, Grove and Ouse all 14 today. Friendly Beaches 13. Lyawini 9. The best rainfall 17 millimetres at Grey, and Bromwyn, who lives just 700 metres from the weather station at Grey, would confirm that. The showers fell over the east and south as that low cloud still sat over the state. Western areas had some high cloud drifting in late in the day. Another cloud band is over the bight to our left. The rest of the country was cloud-free apart from the convective cloud over southern WA. Tomorrow a high lies over central Australia, pushing ridges over most of the mainland. A cold front approaches south-eastern regions. Winds tending west to northwesterly, increasing at 15 to 25 knots over the west and south. Swells back down to the 1.5–2 metre mark. Strong wind warning continues from southeast Cape to Sandy Cape. We do have a flood watch for eastern Tasmanian catchments, a minor flood warning for the South Esk, Macquarie and Jordan rivers, and a flood warning current for the Coal River. Tomorrow for Hobart, 14 and a possible late shower. Showers developing for Cygnet on 14 and 13 the top for New Norfolk. A bit of fog to start the day. Launceston early fog as well, 14 the top with showers developing, 14 also for Devonport. Campbelltown a foggy start and 13 later. 14 the high for Burnie, Strawn and Smithton, all expecting showers. And in the east, partly cloudy day for St Helens, 15, 16 for Swansea, Fingal. A foggy start as well and 15 degrees. Be careful on the roads. Friday's forecast, partly cloudy for most with showers easing from the west and south. Fine and partly cloudy again on Saturday with just a light shower over the west and far south. And on Sunday, a morning frost and fine, but still a shower over the west. Mostly sunny in Perth and 21. A shower clearing from Adelaide, and apart from Melbourne where showers are expected, fine and mostly sunny for the other centres. Cloudy and 11, just one off the high today in Hobart. 13 degrees and cloudy in Launceston, mostly cloudy in Devonport and 13 degrees. I'm getting told to hurry up, Kim. The rest of the crew are heading out for dinner. Were you invited?
No, we didn't get an invite, and that is a true story, and we're claiming ageism. Those young ones, I don't know. That's your news for now. I'll be back later with updates because I'm not going out for dinner. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
First time since 1960 that Tasmania will have beaten the Victorian combination.